Hey trailblazers and tarmac tacklers, welcome to the Maximum Mileage Running Podcast. This is your one-stop shop for everything ultra, road and trail running for busy people. I am your host, Nick Hancock, a certified USCA ultra running coach and UK athletics coach in running fitness. I am here to answer your questions and provide a little bit of humour and inspiration for those tackling marathons and beyond. So whether you're squeezing miles into a busy schedule or just dipping your toes into long distance running, I have got your back. Prepare for some laughs, learning and a few colourful words. So lace up, gear up and get ready for maximum mileage. Let's get into it. On this week's episode, I answer my athletes' questions. They put me on the hot seat once a month and they throw questions at me, sometimes ahead of time, sometimes on the spot. And we talk about everything to do with running. Enjoy. Yes, so we're going to talk about the time of the month because it is a question from somebody. I won't say who it is, they're not on the call, but I won't say who it is. And Faye, you can chime in here as you are a running coach as well.
I was just going to say, I am so pleased this has been brought up because I was running today and I was only thinking, oh yeah, I need to talk to Nick about that because, so I'm glad whoever put the question forward.
Yeah, the question was, should you keep running or should you listen to your body? And it is a time of the month that can be really, really difficult for women, just because of the inconvenience side of it, but also through fatigue, and it is a hormonal response from the body. So should you keep running through it or should you listen to your body? My answer to that, like with anything really, is to listen to your body. If you don't feel particularly great because of it, then don't run. It's okay. Missing the odd run is not going to make much difference in the grand scheme of things. So it is something that generally only lasts a few days. And if it is, making you feel tired, fatigue, emotions, all of that kind of stuff, then absolutely listen to your body. Just take the day off. Don't worry about it. It's not a problem at all. Day or 2 days. Would you agree with that, Faye? And Maddie and Zhang, you're all female. What are your thoughts on that? Some women I know can run through it absolutely fine. And actually, not many people bring it up with me.
I will say it's a funny one for me because I started thinking more about it going back 5 or 6 years for different reasons, because I was getting panic attacks and palpitations, which was a result of my hormonal cycle. Anyway, I also realised that on the lead up to it, kind of 4 or 5 days before, I start to feel really tired. Like I could literally sleep 12, 15 hours a night if you let me. And then when it comes, I'm about as useful as a chocolate teapot. But I have had it where I've run races and it's just arrived or arrives and you just crack on. So it's a funny thing because sometimes you just go, I have to get on with it. So just get on with it. It's a strange one sometimes.
I do find a lot of women are more on the side of, well, it happens every month. I can't just stop my life because of it. I just need to crack on. But I think when we are talking about things like fatigue, which is the flavour of the question, the flavour around the question is, I get really tired when I'm on that time of the month. Should I just push through it or should I listen to my body? And I think that is a really individual thing. If you feel like you can run through it, then okay. But ask yourself that question. Is it worth it? Do I feel that fatigue that I should actually just not run and just go relax? To the person who asked that question, I hope that helps. Shangju, you asked loads of questions. Let's have a look at your questions a minute.
Sorry.
No, that's right. There's some great questions. And actually, one of them feeds into one that Chris asked as well. So I'll start down the bottom here. So when should I start carb loading? So I'll answer that one first. Around 72 hours from your race is about the latest I would start. Now, I wouldn't start loads earlier either. Carb loading over the years has been blown all out of proportion. You hear of these things called pasta parties, which, what the fuck is that? I mean, eating a kilo of pasta the night before your race, is not going to be enough carbohydrate to fill your glycogen stores, but it's also just going to make you feel like crap the next morning. Crap being the operative word. You're probably going to be doing a lot of it. So The general sort of rule I go with is around 72 hours out. So in the 3 days leading up, because you've got to think of it like this as well, is that you're going to be tapering for your race as well. So your running volume is coming down and your eating habits are probably not going to change. So therefore you are using less glycogen anyway. So you kind of, just by default, just through the tapering mechanism, you start to carb load anyway. So around that 72 hours out, that is when I start thinking about adding in extra carbs. The way I do it, yeah, I'll start doing things like adding extra bit of cereal, a bit of extra potatoes on my meal, a bit of extra rice on my lunch. I don't go crazy on it because I don't want to feel bloated. But then what I will start doing is I'll start having some treats, because this is where kind of long distance running nutrition gets a little bit wacky, because you think, you should be eating really healthy, but actually having those extra fast acting carbs like chocolate, sweets, that kind of stuff, that's okay in the days leading up to your race, because they are going to help to give you those extra carbohydrates without having to eat a load of starchy stuff. It is really, really hard to get 6 to 12 grams of carbohydrate per kilo of body weight, lean body weight. So for me, let's say 600 grams of carbs per day. That's a lot of carbohydrate, a lot. And it's really hard to do that through starchy stuff. So that's where I'll let my hair down if I had any. And my usual stuff is Haribo strawberries, brilliant. Oreos, banana chips, dry banana chips. I'll nail like a bag of those a day in the 3 days leading up, and there's still a little bit of health benefit and electrolyte, magnesium, potassium build up through those as well. But yeah, that for me is carb loading. And I also sip on the day before. I'll sip on my carby drink, my sports drink, the day before the race as well. So that'll be another addition to carbs. Does that answer your question, Shangji? I will share on the group a link to a little carb loading.
Thank you. Yeah.
Which has got some extra stuff in there. When done right, carb loading can be your weapon, but so many people get it wrong because they leave it too late or they start too early. And that's why I like that 72-hour window. If you start too early, you start to get, you start to feel a bit fat and groggy and gross by come race day. And if you start too late, you just don't get enough carbs.
Nick, I have problems with my stomach quite often. Is it worth kind of practicing the carb loading sometime beforehand?
Yeah.
I can try now, I guess.
Like I keep saying, your gut can be trained, so it is worth it. Particularly as those big runs start to come into your diary in those final weeks. You don't want to be doing a full carb loading program before a long run, but it wouldn't hurt you to practice, the 24 hours before, the sort of stuff you'd be having the day before the race.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this in a bit more detail, but then, there's the fueling on the run as well. As those runs start to creep over, 12 to 13 miles, which they are starting to, you need to be practicing exactly what you're going to have on race day. Don't worry about weight gain. It isn't going to happen through having 3 or 4 gels on a long run. Actually, your body uses sugars in the carbohydrates, the maltodextrin and fructose, in a very, very different way when you are in exercise than if you were sat on the sofa, just chewing on packets of Torque energy gels or whatever. That would be a very different proposition for your body, because it'd be like, well, what do you want me to do with this stuff? So don't worry about practicing. And Shangji, this goes back to your comment around, so the next part of your question was, what proportion of protein to carbs should I have on a daily basis? I used to cut carbs, but not anymore since you're coaching. Good. I'm glad you're listening, because carbs are our friend. I don't do all that low carb nonsense. Carbs are our friends. They are fuel. Personally, I go with 30% protein, 20% fat, 50% carbs as often as I can in that kind of region. Try and keep your fat. We don't need a lot of fat in our diet. I think it's something like a teaspoon. That's where keto just goes crazy with the fat. But yeah, me personally, 30, 20, 50. And I tend to find that I put a day's worth of eating into MyFitnessPal, and I'll generally hit that pretty much every day. That is quite a lot of protein, but protein is underrated for runners as well. You've got to think about the muscle degradation, the muscle damage that happens on long runs. And you're all doing strength work. You should be having that little bit of extra protein. So like one of my go-to snacks to really buy protein up in the day is skyr yogurt with a protein scoop mixed into it. And that's a solid 50 grams of protein in one hit. Boom. Lovely. And then you said about you're not sure how much to eat in terms of total calories. Get online and do a TDEE calculator, and that will give you a good estimate. The important thing is, particularly on long run days, is to eat well. And I'll come on to that a bit more in a bit. Right, hydration vests for a road marathon. Should I use one or just use the water stations? And this was Chris's question as well as Changju. So Chris, you are going to be pushing out a sub 3:30 time. I would say no. I know you said you get thirsty. I think if you are hydrating well enough, 2.5, 3 liters of water a day, particularly in race week, if you can really be regimented with that and disciplined with that in race week, you shouldn't go into that race and be thirsty and just use the water stations on the course to sip. I think if you're starting to head towards 5 hours, then yeah, I think a hydration vest is quite useful, because having just gels when you're running for that long is probably not great either. But for the majority of people I coach, you want to be trying to do as much using hydration on the course, which is literally just grabbing one of the cups or the bottles, having a little swig, tiny swigs in small amounts. Don't be taking too big of gulps, because otherwise you'll have water bouncing around in your stomach and you'll get stomach cramps. And doing as much of it as possible, if not all of it, on gels for portability. And you don't want to be faffing around with hydration vests personally on a road marathon. Plus, they're going to slow you down.
Yeah, I guess that's the big concern for me, is kind of the weight of it. But it's something that I've always had water on me, so I think that's something I'm going to need to kind of get used to and train around. I think to try and reduce that.
It's another practice point. I know your only other marathon you've ever done was a trail marathon, which is completely different. I mean, even if I was running a 3-hour trail marathon, which I wouldn't, because that's crazy fast, I'd probably still use a hydration vest in that scenario. Just probably because you're not going to have the frequency and convenience of well-organized aid stations like you're going to at London. How often are they, Kyle, at London? It's like every
they're all the time. And not only that, but Lucas Aid Sport have like their own drink sections in between the water, which I avoided like the plague. After taking one, I shaved that morning, trying to run and knock back these sticky fluids. It was like burning all down my face. So and sticky, very sticky.
I had one that was kind of like this weird ball that you kind of like bit into, and it was just a complete mess, because some of them had exploded in the vat that they were containing them in. So they're just this massive sticky mess and lugging them out to everyone. It's like
London sponsored one of Buxton's, the supporter, so they're all like the little mini Buxton bottles.
Yeah, they're nice, easy to grab, easy to stick the lid back on if you want to carry it with you for the next mile or something. If you are feeling that you do need to take on some extra water, I would say try practicing your long run. Maybe get a handheld soft flask rather than in practice with that. It'll perhaps help to mimic a little bit of what you'll experience on race.
Just to give you an idea, I'll take a bottle to park run, so that's the kind of level that I'm at the moment. To it almost as a crutch to have in front of me. So I think that's something I definitely need to focus on, because it kind of struck me when I was kind of looking at the London Marathon photos from last year, and I just suddenly looked, it's like, I need to get a new hydration vest because my zip's broken. What kind of ones are people having? And the answer was none.
Yeah,
very few and far between.
Yeah, I just wouldn't for a road marathon as best as you can.
How do you carry your gels and things? Do you have a little strap for that or something?
Aha, Nathan will tell you.
Yeah, Chris, I asked the same question for the London Marathon last year, and I bought some shorts and carried all my gels in there. Were quite easy. They had 6 or 7 gels, might have been more in there.
They are,
and there was plenty of water stations. I'd say every mile, 2 mile, like Kyle said, and then towards the end you get Lucasade stations. I think I just used the very last Lucasade station.
Wicked.
The shorts that he's talking about are the Decathlon trail shorts.
Oh yeah.
Don't tell Run to wear this. Best shorts on the market.
I did have like a little gel belt, but it looks a bit too much like ammo for going around central London with, so I might skip
Yeah,
that
and
one.
they bounce around and they're really annoying. No, those shorts are the absolute best, and they make them for women as well. So Decathlon trail shorts, they've got like a built-in band you can keep your phone in. And I did Newport Marathon. I think I had 8 gels in them, no problem. And the car key,
Okay,
no problem at all.
thank you.
So that answers that question. What hydration vest? Very simple, Chris. If you're going to get one, get the Solomon ADV series. They are just the best. I'd love to say Harrier because they're a British brand, and I know Kate. And I think in 2 or 3 iterations of their current series, I would say absolutely, but I don't think they're quite there yet. They're just a bit bouncy, I find. Does anybody else use Harrier?
I had Harrier to start with. So I think my first hydration vest was about 2 years ago, and it bounced all over the shop. And then I moved to a Solomon, and it was amazing how still it kept.
It just doesn't go anywhere, does it?
Yeah, the Harrier was all over the place.
Yeah, the ADV series and the new ones are even better than the old ones. I've literally just got the new model, and it's amazing. Yeah. They just hug to you, no matter how much you've got in them. You almost don't feel it.
Yeah, I had sort of the 12-litre one, I think, so you can get 1.5 litres of water in the back as well as on the front. And I did about 50 miles over 2 days with that on. It was absolutely fine. It didn't bounce around at all, even with a change of clothes and things in it.
Yeah, so Solomon ADV series. I've got the 12 as well, and I mean I've done 50 Ks in the 12. A lot of people would say, like a lot of other models, a 12 would be too big, but the pack on the back, it just packs down so small that like there's no point in having a 5 litre, an 8 litre, and a 12 litre. Just get the 12. Got it for everything, every occasion. Then question on gels from Chanju. In the past, gels seem to give me stitches. It depends on which ones. I am gonna just hazard a guess that you were using High Five Aqua or Cis.
Yeah, I think it's Cis.
Yeah. I had a free Cis gel come from Sports Shoes I bought something from Sports Shoes the other day, and it was raspberry. I was like, this tastes like assberry, not flipping raspberry. So yeah, Cis and High Five tend to be very loose, and High Five gels, I've had problems with them in the past because they're so loose, they're so liquidy, and then you're drinking water as well. They just bounce around in your stomach, and that's probably what the cramp might have been from, the stitches. So like with anything nutrition-wise with running, just try some stuff. If you find that gels just don't work for you, then it's a case of finding what does work for you. So when you're not running, what really sweet things do you like to have? Chocolate? Do you eat chocolate?
Yeah, chocolate.
Yeah. So I know somebody who can't stomach gels at all. He runs every race he's ever done. He just takes little mini dairy milks and he just has them. I mean, I don't know how that fares on a hot day, but chocolate's one option, sweets. You've got things like Cliff Blocks, which are like, they're the same formula as gel, but they're just a bit chewy. So Cliff Blocks are really good. And there are other blocks available, I think. Cliff Blocks are the ones I've used before. And they make a ginger one as well, which is quite good for your stomach. So there's a few options there. But I would say just try some stuff. You can try things like Haribo as well, but you do need to have a surprisingly large amount of Haribo to or jelly babies. Like I hear people say, oh, I did my marathon, I only had 2 jelly babies. And I'm like, and how did that go for you? Like, I was fucked at 20 miles. I'm like, that's because you only had 2 jelly babies. There's like 10 grams of carbs in there. Yeah, you were nowhere near what you needed. But yeah, give a few things a try.
Sorry, so how many grams of carbs should I have on a long run? Or like every hour?
How heavy are you, if you don't mind me asking?
52 kilos.
Good. Okay. You'd get away with one every 40 minutes, a 30-gram gel. So Talk, which I use, is 30 grams of carbs in one gel. You'd probably get away with one of those every 40 minutes.
Every 40 minutes.
Yeah, so 30 grams of carbs every 40 minutes. You'd have to set a reminder on your watch. You should be right to get away with that. you're not the biggest person in the world either. So how heavy are you?
Yeah, 53 kilograms, so pretty much the same.
Yeah, so what a joy. I mean, I'm almost twice the weight you two. No, not quite, but yeah, sort of being male, we do need a little bit of extra carb compared to women. So I tend to err on the side of 90 grams per hour, which is hard work, I must admit. Yeah, so when you do your ultra, Joanna, we'll talk about this closer to the time. I mean the one in Bulgaria, not UTS. You're going to need to be thinking about eating real food. But yeah, we'll come on to that at some point. And then trainers. Chris, you asked a question about trainers, and Shangju, you've also asked one as well. Just to simply answer yours, Shangju. So you want to get a pair of trainers for London. Should you start to train in them from now on? If you can, I'd buy 2 pairs. So buy a pair to train in for like your normal training runs. And then the shoes that you want to do London in, you can use those for training, but use them for speed sessions. So you want to get something like, I don't know, I like training my just general easy runs in Nike Pegasus because they're super durable. But then when I actually do the race, I'll wear a pair of super shoes, the Alpha Flies or Vapor Flies or whatever. So that's what I would do personally. Have a bit of a rotation.
Do you speed work in the Vapors or the Alphas, Nick?
So I've got a pair of Vapors that I did Newport in, and they've probably got about 800 miles in them now. They've lasted. They are battered, but I do my speed work in them just because, I don't like doing speed work in the Pegasus. I find them a bit too aggressive, a bit too stiff for me. I like a little bit of the extra cushioning for speed work. So I'll use the Vapors, and then when I get close to race day, I'll start practicing. So all of those marathon pace runs that you're going to start getting, I do them not just in the shoes that I'll be wearing, but I'll make sure I get the sock combination right. I'll wear the same pair of pants, shorts, vest, everything. Like I'll carry the gels. I will practice marathon pace with everything I'm going to have on race day. Something else for you to think about as well. Chris, what was your question about shoes?
Yeah, I guess my question is, I kind of got loads of different pairs of running shoes over the years. There's kind of 3 that I'm using at the moment. I've got a pair of trails that I use on the Thursday runs and when it's muddy, and then a pair of Alpha Flies, another Nike pair as well. I took those 3 pairs to my physio session this week, and she could see the same problem with all of them. My kind of ankle kind of being in the wrong position, pronating too much, and I couldn't. I need to get some supports for those. So I guess my question is more when I'm trying out shoes and
it's all face then. It was exactly the same, exactly what I was thinking.
Sorry, what was that?
No, it's okay. Go on, keep going, Chris. I just saw face, and it's exactly the sort of reaction that is going on in my head.
So I was just wondering kind of like how you choose a pair of shoes kind of when you're wearing them and trying them out in a shop or in a running club and if you've got any tips apart from trying them on, trying them for a little bit and seeing if they work.
Yeah, I mean, with the brands constantly, I mean, even like the Nike Pegasus 38 that I love, that I've got 2 pairs of, both have done near enough 1,000 miles in each of them. I'm thinking I should probably start thinking about another pair. But I've read the reviews, like the Nike Pegasus 38, the new 39s, like a lot of people saying they're just completely different. And because the brands obviously keep changing, they keep tweaking things and stuff. I find I think it's an everlasting conundrum for us, everyday runners, because all of these shoes are designed around Eliud Kipchoge and Kenenisa Bekele and all the other sponsored athletes, and then they're mass marketed. I think it is a bit of an ever running cycle of discovery, really. I bought shoes recently that have only lasted 200 miles because they've fallen apart, in fact, I bought the Adidas Terex Agrovich Ultras for the Brecon Beacons, and they absolutely tore my arches apart. But I had the Adidas Terex Speed Ultras, one's Agrovich, one's Speed, and they're my favorite pair of trail shoes ever. So same brand, same line of for trail, and they're just completely different. Like so, I think I've run about 40 miles in those other Adidas. The point where I'm just going to give them away. So it is a bit of an I've just bought Ultras for the first time, and I have to say I'm blown away. They're amazing. They are amazing. So yeah, it is a little bit of a thing of just on your physio giving you orthotics and telling you pronate too much. Face just said exactly what I was thinking. Like physios, particularly, what's the word for somebody who deals with feet? Is it orthopedic?
Podiatrist.
Podiatrist, that's it.
Podiatrist.
Yeah, podiatrists. I mean, they hate runners. They just hate runners. And they're just like, oh, you should be running. Yeah, you're all over pronators and therefore you need orthotics. Look at Elliot. If you can find any videos of Elliot Kipchoge running, you should see how much he pronates. That is a normal part of the spring loading of our foot pushing back off. It's like a spring. It's like a coil mechanism. But for some reason, physios are like, you shouldn't be doing that. And it's crazy. I mean, unless you are like, your ankles are buckling in to the point where they're almost touching. And I was running behind somebody once that was like that when the Vaporfly first came out. Unless you're actually running like that, I think you just need to be a little bit careful. Go on, Faye.
I also think it's nothing that a bit of decent base strength training can't address, because often the reason people overpronate in the first place is due to weaknesses or tightness in certain locations. So usually it's more of a case, if you can have a good, and I'm not saying loads of strength training, just some basic fundamentals, that will help a lot, because as soon as you put an orthotic in someone's shoe, you throw their biomechanics out, and you've been walking and running in a certain way for so many years. Chuck the orthotics in and it's not necessarily going to solve the problem. It could make it worse. So I am not a physio. I'm just a mere massage therapist, but in the sense of there's good stuff you can do without having to go down the orthotics route, because one, that can be quite expensive.
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
It be like 40, 50 quid just for the inserts. And they have to be per shoe as well. You can't just take them out and stick them in another shoe. So yeah, just be a little bit wary of that. I mean, they gave you strength work to do, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And what she said was usually we'd just recommend the strength work and see how it goes. But because you're training and keeping to go on it, she kind of recommended those as well. But I mean, the pair that she recommended, which were cheap, they were a cheapy pair off of Amazon pretty much. I'm not 100% convinced about them anyway. So yeah, I might go back in a couple of weeks after doing the strength stuff and then see how it goes. And maybe Nick, I'll record some slow-mo on my treadmill of what it looks like as it is now, and just get your phase opinion and see what you think.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, send it over. Yeah, okay, cool.
Thank you.
Bex asked a question. She's not on the call, but she asked a question about shoes as well, just in terms of, should I have a rotation? Yes, you should. It's good to run in different pairs of shoes, and particularly if you're a trail runner, no one pair of trail shoes. So I love it when people transition from road to trail for the first time. They go, "Oh, I got a pair of trail shoes," and I go, "Oh, right. Which ones did you get?" And they go, "I got Hoka Speed Goats." I'm like, "It's fucking February. You ain't gonna get any grip out there in Hoka Speed Goats." Like, you go get yourself some mud claws. So yeah, make sure you do have a decent rotation of shoes, and particularly trail shoes. You need a different pair for different situations, even a type of sole, not just like the lugs. I mean, I just bought a pair of Ultras, which I'm going to be hopefully using for the UTS. And Joanna, you want to be listening to this actually, and anybody else who is watching this afterwards. Kyle, who else have we got doing UTS? Andy, I've got somebody else doing UTS. But like, it's potentially, if it's wet, it's very rocky up there. Vibram soles. They are so sticky. It's amazing. What trail shoes are you thinking about for UTS, Kyle?
I'm playing with some North Face Vectives right now, which I've fallen in love with. They're really cool. They've got Vibram soles. They're quite heavy, but they just feel great.
They're too heavy for me. They were too narrow for me.
They're also really cheap at the moment. They've got a half price sale on everyone.
North Face shop in Bath, when I went in to try them on, they said if you buy them, you can just bring them back after 90 days if you don't like them. So 90 days. I was like, what, used, smashed up, fucked? And they were like, yeah, just as long as it's within 90 days. I was like, wow. Got to have some serious confidence in your shoes to put that kind of guarantee on. You know, I'm going with I'm going with a Vibram sole, 100%. They're so sticky on wet rock. So yeah.
Nick, is there any trainer you could recommend if you're on the trails, but you're also running on road or rockery paths or?
Yeah, anything with lugs less than 4 mil, then you should be okay on the road for some period of time. I mean, it depends on the shoe. Like I did have Solomon Glide. What are they? I can't remember what they're called now. Which were great shoes, but they only lasted 200 miles because I used to live like 2 miles until I got to the trails. And I think the pavement just chewed them up to bits. Hoka Speedgoat can be a bit like that as well. In fact, I just find Hoka they just wear down very, very quickly.
Yeah, my road trainers from Hoka wore down really quickly.
But yeah, if you've got lugs less than 4 mil, if you are regularly doing hybrid runs where you're a bit on trail, a bit on road, then 4 mil. But I think now I'm sort of saying that, I think it should be governed by the trail. If you're going to spend a significant amount of time on the trail, and let's say it's super muddy, super slippery, well, you might just have to bear with running on the road in a pair of mud claws, which are like 8 mil, really aggressive. So yeah, I think I'd go with governing by what sort of trail am I going to be running on? If it's really dry trails in the summer, then yeah, a 4 mil lug is going to be absolutely fine. Do you know what I mean by lug?
Is that the tread on the bottom?
Yeah, so the depth of the the little knobbly bits. They're called lugs. So yeah, they come in different depth.
I'm just thinking about my ultra marathon in May time in the Peak Districts. It's going to be quite dry, isn't it?
Could be, but it could also be pissing down with rain. And I haven't run in the peaks before, but I'd imagine it's relatively similar to the lakes where it's slippery in places and moss on the rocks and stuff. Again, I'd be going with something with a Vibram sole, something quite sticky. Faye, you've done a lot of mountain running. What are your thoughts on the peaks?
I would say treat it like I was going to say treat it like Wales. It's always wet pretty much 10 months of the year. I would go grippier rather than not grippier. You do better off having a better grip than not enough.
When you come to look at shoes, Nate, just let me know and I'll give you some steer. The thing with mountainous terrain in this country is you're pretty much going to be dealing with some wet rock at some point. Unless it's guaranteed sunny weather, then you're probably going to be dealing with wet rock, even if it's just through, being up in the mountains and running through cloud cover. That's going to add moisture to the rock. Okay, brilliant. Cool. Any more questions from anybody before I talk about recovery, which I've not got that much time for? It's okay. I wasn't going to be all preachy about it. Cool. Okay. So recovery. It was really interesting. Not surprising though that Nick Mazzino, who's over in Ohio, he asked on the group. What was he asked? He asked something like foam rolling, massage guns. He went straight for the gadgets, like how much, how often. So that was quite interesting because it is unsurprising because so much of the stuff you see on like social media, and I actually did a bit of Googling today just to see what things like Runner's World, which don't get me started on Runner's World. I've got a real bugbear with them at the moment. Just putting out clickbaity, spammy crap. But yeah, the sort of articles that they put out, 5 best methods for recovering from your runs. And it generally involves some sort of gadget. And there are some much more simple things that should be prioritized before we get on to things like massage guns and foam rolling, which can be helpful for some people, even if it's just just mentally thinking, you're doing something. And I will always say something that a guy called Mike James, the endurance physio, is called. I know, Faye, if you've heard of him in sports therapy circles. He's Welsh, actually. I think he's from Ebervale. I like what he said. He said there are certain things like stretching, foam rolling, that sort of stuff that he wouldn't personally recommend it to somebody, but if somebody wanted to do it because it made them feel good, he wouldn't stop them. I quite like that. I thought that was quite a nice way of putting it. It's not something he would say, you should be doing that, but if it makes you feel good, then off you go. And I think that's because there's still a lot of the science doesn't really support much of it. What the science does support, and I've got first on my list, and I don't think there's any sort of real order to these first three: nutrition, eating enough, and eating high quality food as well. Getting enough calories in is one thing, but not all calories are made the same. So, making sure that what you are eating is generally of good quality. And, we obviously had the discussion with Lou last month. So, make sure your diet's good and you're eating enough of it. Get enough protein, get enough carbs. That's what the body needs. The protein for muscle recovery and preventing muscle degradation. And then obviously the carbs to replenish the glycogen that you've lost through exercise, with a moderate amount of fat. But eat healthily. I really like what Lou said last month, actually. Try and eat 30 different fruits and vegetables throughout the week. Well, that was really good. Hydration. For me, nutrition, hydration, the two go hand in hand. Got to be drinking 2 to 3 litres of fluid a day. I'm changing my tact from saying water per day because I used to discount coffee. And that study I posted was just, yes, that was just an absolute brilliant moment for me. So I probably had about 4 litres of fluid today with my squash and my 97 coffees that I like to drink. So yeah, making sure that you're drinking plenty of fluid. And if you think about carbohydrates and what a carbohydrate molecule is, the carbohydrate molecule is carbon with 2 water molecules attached to it. So if you're not drinking enough water, you don't get that carbohydrate absorption as well as you should do. Sleep is, I don't know. I didn't know which way round to say to put nutrition or sleep, but yeah, sleep is so important. And this is where I kind of get annoyed with people who go, I feel absolutely fucked after all the training I've been doing. I'm sat on the foam roller, I'm smashing myself with a machine gun, a massage gun, rolling on a hockey ball and doing yoga and all of this stuff. And I'm like, well, okay, how have you been sleeping? And now I can see all of your data from Garmin. That's brilliant. Not from you, Chris, but I can see everybody's sleeping hours now, which is great. So if I see somebody's had a bit of a bad sleep and then they go, and then that day they've done a hard session and the hard session didn't go quite right, and go, well, you didn't sleep very well last night, did you? And they go, no, I didn't. I only slept for 4 hours because, my little boy was waking up in the night or whatever it might be. I know sleep can be a bit of a tough one, particularly for the parents and, shift workers and that kind of stuff. Nath, I know you do nights from time to time, but sleep is one thing that you've got to try and prioritize in terms of recovery, because that's when the magic happens. That's when the body is like, right, let's recover. Let's get ready for the next day. And so yeah, sleep is a huge one. Who gets 7 hours of sleep minimum a night? Pretty much every night. Yeah, good. Maddie, I can't see your hand. I'm just going to assume you said yes. And I won't open the trade.
It's good.
Yeah, good. Next thing, and this isn't always easy, but reducing life stress can be almost, in fact, I would stick my neck out and say it is more stressful than the training itself. It really plays its part. So if you can reduce your life stressors, that is a huge thing. And that can be honestly as simple as, you just had a shit meeting with someone, or one of your colleagues is being a dickhead, or your boss is pissing you off, or the kids are driving you nuts. Just literally taking 5 minutes to just close your eyes and take a few big, deep breaths can be quite powerful. I was listening to Huberman Lab podcast. That has been seen as the quickest way to reduce stress is by 4 seconds in through the nose and then 8 seconds out through the mouth. Even for 60 seconds, the study was something like, somebody's stress score went from like 80 to 10 out of 100 within that 60 seconds, just through taking a few big, deep breaths. 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out. Alcohol, there aren't many. Chris, you did I see on the group, you gave it drinking, was it 3 years ago?
Yeah, just over 3 and a bit years ago, yeah.
Wow, good on you.
I did this 1 year no beer 1 month, which turned into 90 days. And I realised my parkrun times were going up and up, down and down and down. And I just kept going. Yeah.
That's so funny because I think some of my best parkrun times would come after a skin full of red wine the night before.
No inhibitions.
Yeah, alcohol. I mean, as much as sometimes I get a little bit annoyed with all of the data in the Garmin watches, and they are just a number. There's no denying when I've had more than 2 glasses of red wine, my HRV, stress score, and my sleep score are terrible. So if you drink more than you maybe should, then reducing that is a really, really important thing. I've gotten really into nice herbal teas every night. This is my sleepy tea, this one. So instead of having a glass of wine, I have a herbal tea each night. Then hot baths, and I put that above massage. Sorry, Faye. I put that above massage purely because it's easy. Like, you can have a hot bath once a week quite easily. Okay, not for free because we have to pay for water and heating, but actually that's probably more expensive than a massage these days. But
I totally agree. I'm not a full-time massage therapist at the moment. Cost of living and all that, it's not really a priority. So I had to get a real job. But 100%, I love a bath with Epsom salts in. One of the best things ever. Even if I can't have a bath, because someone said you're not having a bath, fill in the bath with water. I fill a bowl and put my feet in it and have a foot spa. That's lush.
That's lush.
Yeah.
Definitely got the South Wales in you now.
I was going to say the same, Nick, about one of what I've found on say I've been on a long run is a hot bath with Epsom salts. The amount of difference it makes in the morning is unbelievable.
Yeah, brilliant. I always try and have a hot bath on a Sunday.
That help with sleep as well. Nick, coming back to the sleep thing, that's one thing I was going to ask. So after a long run, I often sleep terribly.
Okay, that's interesting.
So probably the worst night's sleep I get if I run 10 miles or more. I don't tend to sleep well that night. I don't know why I'm exhausted, but I lie there wide awake.
So I would go back to, if you feel like that after, I mean, you're not doing your long runs right before you go to bed, are you?
No, in the morning. I just feel, I don't know, I'm just not that tired.
So I'd go back to, how are you feeling on the run? Because actually, sorry, let me just rewind the clock a second. My number 1 point was not nutrition and hydration. It is actually recovery starts on the run itself by fueling the run properly. So make sure you are fueling your runs. There's no excuse for fasted running unless you have some sort of dietary issue that means you have to fasted run. Don't do it. Get your fueling right, fuel your runs, and that is where recovery starts. That's where recovery starts, on the run itself. Then I'd be thinking, well, you've come in from the run. Have you started rehydrating straight away? Are you eating, well straight away? And then throughout the day itself, are you eating enough? What are you doing afterwards? Are you doing your long run and then your missus is dragging you around the shops for the next 6 hours?
It happens.
It happens. But I mean, something like a hot bath.
I haven't tried that. Yeah,
it's pretty good. Try showering. Hot shower before bed. What happens, and this might sound counterproductive, but what we need to do before we go to sleep is we need to reduce our core body temperature, and having a warm shower actually sends signals to the brain to go, oh, I need to cool myself because I'm getting hot. And then in the morning, and this is Huberman Lab again, I think he's brilliant. In the morning, we need to raise our core body temperature. So I have a cold shower in the morning to try and wake up quicker, not just because like, oh my God, that's freezing, but actually it raises your core body temperature a little bit quicker. So you can try that.
Cool, thanks.
Where was I going with that? Yeah, so hot baths, then massage. Massage is great if you can afford it once a month. Brilliant. I think that's a great amount of time for, if you can afford it more, then great. Yeah, I love a massage. I think it's a great thing, even if it's just a bit of a, going back to what that Mike James would say, if it's something you enjoy, you feel it works for you, then even if it's just mentally, then great. There's a word beginning with S that I haven't mentioned, stretching. I'm not a fan of it, but I did go to yoga on Monday, a yoga class. I really enjoyed it. And again, I think the evidence just isn't there for stretching. Either way, really, it's, there isn't enough evidence to say that it's a benefit, and there's not enough evidence to say that it isn't a benefit. And it's the same with ice baths as well. So I've got ice baths on my list with a question mark. I was listening to a guy called Alex Hutchison, who has done a bunch of studies on cold and hot therapy. He is on the side of hot therapy. There's plenty of evidence around that. They've shown that it helps to speed up the recovery process by getting more blood to the places that it needs to. Whereas ice baths restrict that, but they still don't know whether getting in an ice bath is good for us or bad for us. There just isn't enough evidence, a bit like stretching. So it's one of those things where he said both about stretching and ice baths. If you like stretching, if you like getting in freezing cold water, then you go for it. But if you don't like stretching and you don't like getting in cold water, then don't bother. I think that's kind of where I stand on that, because I hate stretching. I did enjoy yoga the other day, I must admit. That was, I think, having somebody there to go, do that, put that there, try and do this. That was quite good. I think trying to do it in front of a YouTube video just doesn't work for me. And then we can start looking at the things that Nick mentioned on the group: massage guns, gadgets. I can zip up sauna bags. What else has come on my Facebook feed recently? Yeah, there's loads of stuff out there. Foam rolling, again, there has been some evidence, and Faye probably agree with this, there has been some evidence that it can help with mobility in the immediacy. So if you were to do some before a run or before a strength workout, then that might have some benefit, but the effects are not that long lasted. So doing it after things is maybe not. Again, a bit like stretching and ice baths. Is it, if you like it, go for it. What do you think, Faye?
I hate foam rollers, and I think part of the problem is they're used incorrectly, which is no one's fault in particular. There's just, you can pick up a foam roller and have no education with it. It is good for using as a prop for mobility exercises. So I do use it to like stretch my back out, or I've used it in yoga for different bits and pieces, but I have one in the corner, and I don't know the last time that I actually rolled on it. It's just there. But yeah, for like mobility, like stretching out my upper back and stuff, it's really nice for, but not for actually rolling.
Yeah, not as a recovery modality.
No.
But then that's where I go back to the bit about stretching. If you're doing the right type of inverted commas stretching, I don't like calling it stretching, mobility work, that's good for mobility. Is it good for recovery? We don't really know. So
when I did that backyard ultra, Nick, there was quite a lot of people had foam rollers and massage guns, and
do you know what? Like I say, if that makes you feel good, then you go for it. Those massage guns that you get off Amazon for 35 quid or whatever they are, I don't know.
They had them on sale at the petrol station. I was like, are you for real? So that on that, they have those little plastic things saying this week we've got heated gloves and massage guns, and you just think, what?
I mean, the ones from Amazon, they come with all different attachments, and you just know that there's one attachment in there that is for pleasuring oneself. Ladies, that's all people use it for, especially the people that buy them from the garage. All right, love, I've just got you a present from the garage with your garage flowers. Anyway, so yeah, I think all of that, Nick, if you are listening and watching, that sort of stuff, if you've got your nutrition right, your hydration right, your sleep right, you're reducing your life stresses, you're having hot baths, you are getting massage from a good sports therapist, you got all that right, and then you still want to look at recovery modalities, then start going to that sort of stuff. There just isn't a lot of evidence on it at the moment, all those gadgets. Some of them claim to, but yeah, unless it's a Nick, you know full well what it's like to be published in things like PubMed after his caffeine study that he did. Yeah, unless there's good evidence around it, I just wouldn't bother. I'd rather you spend your time doing something else, like getting another 10 minutes of sleep instead of sitting around with a foam roller. Have a nap if you can, and you try doing that in the middle of the day. Just sack off a meeting or two. And that is all I got for you today. So, in summary, you're pretty much all of you, your mileage is going up now. It's starting to hit. Half marathons are coming in March, so that's when we're going to be testing out race pace for you marathoners. Maddie, I think your half is in March, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
11th.
You're quickly coming into your key weeks now, so really prioritizing recovery as best you can. Your body needs it. All right, thank you all for coming. And next week, I am definitely going to have a guest speaker. I was a bit unorganized this week, but I did want to talk about we've had so many questions and things anyway that it's been all good. But next week, I'm hoping to get Marcus Wilday on, who is the Talk Fitness Performance Director. So he's their very, very scientific brain around their products. And there's nothing he doesn't know about fueling your races. So I'm going to get him on and he can help you all through your fueling strategies. All right. Have a great evening, everybody.
Bye.
Everyone.
See ya. Bye.
And that's another lap done on the Maximum Mileage Running podcast. Thank you for joining me and my athletes and my guests on this wild ride through the world of ultra, road and trail running. And remember, whether it's a mountain trail or the local road, every mile you conquer makes you stronger. Keep pushing, keep laughing, and of course, keep swearing when that hill just seems a little too steep. If you enjoyed today's journey, don't forget to subscribe and leave me a nice review, please. Your feedback does help me go that extra mile. Until next time, this is your host, Nick Hancock, reminding you to make every mile count. Run long, run strong, and run with maximum mileage. Catch you on the next run.